Sir, don't sign that. It's a trap. They're going to rob you. The voice was almost a whisper, but it cut through the humid Los Angeles night air like a sharp blade. Ethan Cole paused with the pen in the air, his eyes still fixed on the merger contract that could transform his startup into a tech empire valued at millions. Across the table, Trevor and Preston exchanged glances and chuckled, as if a street kid could understand anything about international business. Just another panhandler, Trevor murmured, adjusting the cuff of his Italian shirt. Ethan, call the waiter to get her out of here. But Ethan couldn't take his eyes off the girl. She was outside the iron gate that separated the restaurant's outdoor tables from the sidewalk, barefoot, her clothes dirty and torn. But there was something in her gaze that deeply disturbed him. It wasn't the usual desperation he was accustomed to seeing on the streets of LA. It was determination. It was urgency. It was knowledge. Please, sir, she insisted, moving closer to the gate, her small hands clutching the cold metal. Don't sign it. They're no good. Preston huffed, impatient. Ethan, man, we have 48 hours to close this. The international investors won't wait. If you don't sign today, I know, Ethan replied, but his voice came out strange, distant. He slowly stood up, pretending he was going to call the waiter. Excuse me for a minute, guys? I think I ate something that's upsetting my stomach. The brothers nodded, already returning to discuss the technical details of the contract. Ethan walked close to the gate, knelt discreetly, and whispered to the girl, "Why did you say that?" Her eyes widened, as if she hadn't expected him to actually listen. "I was here before you arrived," she answered quickly, looking nervously around. "I was behind that big planter, trying to hide from the rain. I heard them talking on the phone before you got here." "Talking about what?" "That you were..." She hesitated, searching for the right words. "That you were a sucker. That they were going to make you sign a rigged contract and then put all the blame on you. They talked about a shell company, about a hidden addendum." Ethan's stomach dropped. Hidden addendum. The girl had used the exact technical term that was in the documentation. How could a street kid know that? "What's your name?" he asked, his voice almost failing. "Willow," she replied, stepping back. "Sir, they're looking. You better go back." Ethan turned. Trevor and Preston were indeed watching him curiously. He waved, indicating he'd be right back, and turned to Willow again. "Listen, I need to think about what you said. Do you have somewhere to stay tonight?" Willow shook her head negatively. "Stay nearby, okay? Don't leave. I'll be back." Back at the table, Ethan tried to maintain his composure, but his mind was in turmoil. He picked up the contract, flipping through the pages with more attention than before. "Everything all right, brother?" Trevor asked, his voice laced with a concern that now sounded false to Ethan's ears. Yes, just a little indigestion. Look, guys, how about we take this home tonight? I want to review some details calmly." The silence that followed was tense. Preston tapped his fingers on the table. "Ethan, man, we've reviewed this 1,000 times. It's now or never. I understand the pressure, but it's a lot of money involved. One more night won't make a difference." "It will," Trevor insisted, leaning forward. "The guys in Europe are already suspicious of our delay if we don't close today. So they'll back out because of one night?" Ethan interrupted, his voice firmer now. "What kind of partners are those?" The brothers exchanged glances again, and this time Ethan noticed something he had never seen before. They seemed to be communicating silently, as if sharing a secret from which he was excluded. When they finally said goodbye at the restaurant door, with promises to meet the next morning, Ethan pretended to get into his car, but as soon as the brothers disappeared from sight, he ran back to look for Willow. She was exactly where he had asked her to stay, sitting on the ground next to the planter, hugging her knees. "You came back," she said, and there was genuine surprise in her voice. "Of course I came back," Ethan replied, crouching in front of her. "Willow, I need you to tell me everything you heard, every word, every detail. Can you do that?" She nodded with determination, and at that moment, Ethan knew his life was about to change forever. The question that tormented him now wasn't whether he should trust a street kid. It was whether he could trust the men he had called friends for all these years. And time was running out. Willow looked around before starting, like a small animal checking for predators. Ethan sat on the ground beside her, ignoring his expensive dress pants that now touched the dirty concrete. They arrived 20 minutes before you, she began, her voice low but firm. The tall one with glasses. Trevor, Ethan murmured. That one. He was on the phone, talking loudly. He said, Ethan is a bit too straight-laced, but we can push this on him. After he signs, all the responsibility is his. Ethan's stomach clenched. 20 years of friendship since adolescence. There's more, Willow continued. They talked about a company, Zenith Corp, I think. They said they had done the same thing before in Chicago. That the guy there got royally screwed, but they managed to prove they knew nothing. Ethan felt his blood run cold. Zenith Corp. He vaguely remembered it from the financial papers. A startup that had crashed after a financial scandal. The founder investigated for months, reputation destroyed, while the junior partners simply vanished. Are you sure of what you heard? She nodded, pulling a small crumpled paper from her pocket. I can't write very well, but I made some drawings so I wouldn't forget. Ethan took the paper, childish scribbles, but he could decipher them. Drawings of buildings with dollar signs, arrows pointing to a lone figure, numbers corresponding to the contract values. How did you understand so much about business? We who live on the streets learn to pay attention to everything. She paused, looking into his eyes. When someone talks too loudly about money, it's because something's wrong. The simplicity of the observation hit him like a punch. A street kid had more instinct for detecting fraud than he did. Why did you warn me? You don't even know me. Willow was silent, fiddling with the frayed edges of her shirt. I've seen a lot of people get scammed. It's always the weakest who get hurt, she said finally. You seemed like a good person. Different from them. How so different? They laughed at me. They talked like I didn't exist. You at least looked me in the eye. Ethan felt a pang in his chest. He had looked, yes, but his first reaction had also been one of rejection. Willow, where do you live? Nowhere. I sleep wherever I can. Ethan looked at the sky. The clouds were darkening. It would rain soon. Would you like to sleep somewhere dry tonight? I know a hotel nearby. Willow looked at him suspiciously. Why? What do you want in return? The question hit him like a slap. A child had already learned that nothing was free. I don't want anything in return. I just want to help you. You helped me today, more than you can imagine. And tomorrow? And the day after tomorrow? Ethan looked at her, really looked at her, seeing her scraped knees, her small, dirty hands, her tangled hair. Let's take it one step at a time. Tonight you'll sleep dry and safe. The first drop of rain fell on his face. Okay, she said, standing up. But if you need anything else about those two, I'll help. As they walked to the hotel, Ethan couldn't stop thinking. A child offering help, in a world that had offered her nothing but contempt. And two men he considered brothers were planning his ruin. The world had turned upside down, and Ethan still had no idea how to set it right again. Ethan spent the entire night awake, sitting with his laptop open and documents scattered across the table. With each discovery, the knot in his stomach tightened further. He started by researching Zenith Corp. The articles told a familiar story. Promising company, rapid growth, international investment, financial scandal, and bankruptcy. The founder, Marcus Sterling, had lost everything. The junior partners simply vanished, until he found a smaller report. Trevor Allen Davies and Preston Lyle Evans, financial consultants for Zenith Corp. Ethan felt the world spin. It was them. He called David, his trusted lawyer. David, I need you to analyze a contract urgently. Ethan, it's 4 a.m. It's an emergency. Can I email it to you? An hour later, David called back, tense. Ethan, this contract is a bombshell. It has clauses that make you personally responsible for any irregularities of the company, even those prior to the merger. What do you mean? If things go south, you bear the brunt of everything. And there's an automatic transfer of your shares to a holding company in case of instability. Guess who controls it? Trevor and Preston. Ethan returned to the company's internal documents. In the last 6 months, Trevor had created 3 consulting firms, all receiving payments from the startup. Preston had suspicious bank movements, overseas deposits. He found old emails between the brothers. The fish is taking the bait. A few more weeks and we can implement the Chicago plan. At 9 a.m, Trevor and Preston arrived with forced smiles. Sleep well? Trevor asked. Thought about the contract? I did. I want to propose some small changes before signing. The brothers exchanged glances. What changes? Preston asked, tense. Protection clauses, better distribution of responsibilities. Ethan, Trevor interrupted, we can't change anything. The European guys have already approved this version. So they'll back out for minor legal adjustments? They will. Yes, Preston exclaimed. It's take it or leave it. Ethan observed them. The pressure was almost desperate. You know what's funny? Yesterday I was thinking about Zenith Corp. Remember? Deafening silence. Trevor tapped his fingers. Preston swallowed hard. Zenith what? Trevor asked, his voice strange. Startup from Chicago, crashed 3 years ago. The founder got screwed, but the consultants disappeared. Preston stood up abruptly. Ethan, what's this about? We have more important things. Where did you two work before you approached me anyway? Several small consultancies, Trevor answered quickly. Nothing relevant. I see. I'll think more about the contract. Shall we meet tomorrow? Ethan, Preston exploded, you're sabotaging your own company. If it's a real opportunity, it can wait one more day. After they left, frustrated, Ethan called the hotel. I'd like to speak with the girl in room 237. Sir, is that you? Willow's small voice. How are you? Good. I had a hot shower and ate a lot at breakfast. Ethan smiled, feeling a strange relief. Can you meet me this afternoon? I need to talk about something important. Sure. Here at the hotel? That works. And Willow, thank you so much for everything. The next few hours would define not just the future of his company, but the kind of person he truly was. Ethan arrived at the hotel at 3 p.m, carrying a bag with new clothes for Willow. He had stopped by the nearest children's store and, not knowing her size exactly, asked the salesperson for help choosing basic items: jeans, 2 shirts, sneakers, socks, and underwear. Good afternoon, I'm here for the girl in room 237, he told the receptionist. The woman looked at him with a confused expression. Sir, that room was vacated 2 hours ago. Vacated? What do you mean? The girl was checked in until tonight. A social worker came to pick up the child around noon. She said a situation of a minor in a street situation had been reported. Ethan's stomach dropped. A social worker? What social worker? The lady presented documentation from Child Protective Services. She said you had made a report last night denouncing the child's situation. I didn't make any report. Ethan raised his voice, attracting stares. Sorry, that's not directed at you. Can you give me more details? The social worker's name? The receptionist consulted the system. Sarah Miller. She left a card, but it says here that the child left voluntarily. Ethan rushed out of the hotel. In the car, he called the number on the card. Out of service. He typed the address into his GPS. The street existed, but the number pointed to a vacant lot. He spent the rest of the afternoon driving through the streets where he had found Willow the night before, asking homeless people, panhandlers, street vendors. No one had seen her. That night, exhausted and worried, he returned home. He found a message on his phone from an unknown number. The girl is fine, but you'd better focus on your own problems. Tomorrow is the last day. Ethan felt a wave of anger and fear. He immediately called the number. Disconnected. He couldn't sleep. He kept imagining Willow scared, alone, not understanding why she had been taken from the hotel. The girl who had trusted him, who had risked everything to warn him about the betrayal, was now missing because of him. The next morning, Trevor and Preston arrived at the office with a different energy. They seemed confident, almost cheerful. Good morning, Ethan, Trevor greeted, extending his hand. We hope you had a peaceful night. Where is she? Ethan asked directly. Where is who? Preston feigned ignorance. The girl, Willow. Where did you put her? The brothers exchanged glances and laughed. Man, what girl? Are you talking about the panhandler from yesterday? Trevor shook his head. Ethan, you're too paranoid. You need to relax. You set this up. You invented a fake social worker to get her out of the hotel. Wow, what an imagination. Preston sat in the armchair, relaxed. Ethan, you're seeing conspiracy where none exists. We came here to resolve our business, not to talk about street kids. Is she okay? Ethan insisted, his voice more tense. My friend, Trevor approached, putting a hand on his shoulder. Forget about this. We have more important things to resolve. Today is our last day. Either you sign the contract or we lose everything. Ethan stared at them. They knew. They knew Willow had told him everything. They knew she was the only witness to their conversations. They knew that without her, he had no way to prove their intentions. And if I don't sign, then you'll regret it for the rest of your life, Preston replied, the smile fading from his face. You'll miss the opportunity to transform our company into something gigantic. Our company, Ethan repeated slowly. Of course ours. Trevor spread his arms. We've been partners since the beginning, brother. We're in this together. Ethan picked up the contract from the table and slowly flipped through the pages. Trevor and Preston watched him in silence, like predators waiting for their prey to make the next move. You know, he said finally, I think I will sign. The relief on the brothers' faces was instant. Now you're talking the language of success. Trevor clapped his hands. Ethan picked up the pen, brought it to the paper, and stopped. Just one last question, he said, looking directly into their eyes. If I find out you did anything to that girl, you know that changes everything, right? Ethan, Preston sighed. Stop with the paranoia. Just sign it. Ethan lowered the pen towards the paper. At the last second, his cell phone rang. It was a strange number, but he answered anyway. Hello? Sir? Willow's small, scared voice reached him like a breath of hope. Help. Willow? Where are you? Ethan stood up abruptly, dropping the pen on the floor. I don't know. It looks like an empty apartment. Her voice trembled. There are bars on the windows. The woman who brought me left, but she locked the door. Trevor and Preston exchanged glances, panic beginning to wash over their faces. Can you see anything through the window? Street name, number? There's a bakery downstairs with... The call dropped. Ethan tried to call back. Out of range. You sons of bitches. He turned to the brothers. Where is she? Ethan, calm down. Trevor raised his hands. You're freaking out. Where is she? Ethan yelled. Preston slowly stood up. Look, maybe we can resolve this in a civilized way. You sign the contract and the girl appears, simple as that. You kidnapped a child. We didn't kidnap anyone, Trevor replied coldly. We just ensured that certain problematic people couldn't disrupt our business. Ethan felt a rage he had never experienced in his life. He picked up his cell phone and dialed 911. What are you doing? Preston advanced, trying to snatch the phone. Calling the police. Don't do that, Trevor said, his voice now more desperate. Ethan, think about it. If you call the police, who guarantees they'll find the girl? It could take days, weeks. Hello, police department? Ethan managed to complete the call before Preston could take the phone. I need to report a kidnapping. The brothers ran for the door. Ethan yelled, Maple Avenue, 712 Horizon Tech, Trevor and Preston Evans. The phone rang again. Ethan answered quickly. Willow? Sir, I managed to get out, she whispered. The door wasn't locked properly. I'm going down the stairs. Where exactly are you? Elm Street, above Star Bakery, apartment 23. Get out of there now. Go to the street and find a place with a lot of people. I'm on my way. Ethan ran out of the office, leaving contracts and documents scattered on the table. In the car, he called David. David, call the police to Horizon Tech. Trevor and Preston fled. And send a patrol car to Elm Street, Star Bakery. Traffic had never seemed so slow. Ethan honked, swore, tried to find shortcuts. 15 minutes that felt like an eternity. When he arrived at the bakery, he found Willow sitting on the sidewalk, hugging her knees. She was dirty, her clothes wrinkled, but whole. Ethan stopped the car in the wrong lane and ran to her. Willow, are you okay? She threw herself into his arms, trembling. They scared me a lot, she sobbed. The woman said you didn't want to help me anymore, that you had sent her to take me somewhere I wouldn't bother anyone anymore. That's a lie. I was looking for you desperately. I knew it was a lie. Willow pulled away, looking into his eyes. You wouldn't do that to me. A patrol car arrived, followed by David and 2 investigators. Ethan, is the situation under control? David asked. For now, yes. Willow, these are police officers. They'll need you to tell them everything that happened. As Willow gave her statement, Ethan noticed something that deeply moved him. Despite everything she had been through, she showed no hatred or resentment, only relief at being safe. "Sir," she called him after the police finished. "Now what? Where will I stay?" Ethan looked at her, at that brave girl who had risked everything to save him, and who now had absolutely nothing in the world except the trust she placed in him. "With me," he replied without hesitation. "If you want, you'll stay with me." For the first time since they met, Willow smiled. A small, but genuine smile. "I do." But as they got into the car, Ethan knew the battle was far from over. Trevor and Preston had fled, but they certainly wouldn't give up. And now he had a much greater responsibility than saving his company. Now he had a daughter to protect. Ethan's apartment was too big for one person, but now with Willow sitting on the beige leather sofa, hugging a pillow, it seemed to have found its purpose. "Are you hungry?" he asked, nervous. He had never taken care of a child before. Willow nodded timidly. Ethan opened the refrigerator and observed the obvious. Only water, beer, and some leftover Chinese food. "How about we order a pizza?" Her eyes lit up. "Can it be any flavor?" "Any one you want." While they waited for delivery, Ethan showed Willow the apartment. She observed everything with quiet curiosity. The paintings on the walls, the bookshelf full of books, the balcony with a city view. "This will be your room," he said, opening the door to what was once his home office. "Tomorrow we'll buy a bed, clothes, toys." "Sir," Willow interrupted him, "why are you doing this?" Ethan knelt in front of her. "First, you can call me Ethan. And second, you saved my life, Willow. Not just from the scammers, but from something much worse." "From what?" "From becoming someone who only sees money and business. Someone who walks past a child asking for help and pretends not to see." Willow was silent, processing his words. "Ethan," she tested the name. "I can't read or write very well." "We'll fix that. Do you want to learn?" "I really do." After the pizza, Ethan improvised a bed for Willow on the sofa. Before going to sleep, she asked a question that caught him off guard. "Ethan, do you have family?" "I have my parents, but they live far away." "And you?" Willow lowered her eyes. "I did. My mom died when I was little. My stepfather, he hit me. That's why I ran away." Ethan felt a tightening in his chest. "You'll never have to go through that again. I promise." The next morning, Ethan called his assistant. "Brenda, I need to cancel all my appointments this week and get me a consultation with a lawyer specializing in adoption." "Adoption, sir?" "Yes. And you also need to research private schools nearby, with good facilities for children who need special attention." Meanwhile, Willow was exploring the kitchen, trying to figure out how the coffee machine worked. "Let me show you," Ethan said, approaching. As they made coffee together, Willow asked, "And those bad men? Will they come back?" "I don't know, but if they do, we'll be prepared." Ethan had spent part of the night organizing all the evidence against Trevor and Preston. Emails, fraudulent contracts, bank records, Zenith Corp documents. Everything properly cataloged and protected in multiple copies. "Willow, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "If any stranger approaches you, even if they say they know me, you run away and call me immediately. Deal?" "Deal." At that moment, the intercom rang. Ethan answered, tense. "Who is it?" "Police Department, Detective Harrison." Ethan went downstairs to meet the officer, leaving Willow in the apartment. "Mr. Cole, I came to follow up on yesterday's report. We managed to trace Trevor and Preston Evans to the airport. They took a flight to Paraguay in the early morning." "Did they flee the country?" "It seems so. But with the evidence you provided, we'll get arrest warrants and an extradition request. The process will take time, but they won't get away with it." When Ethan returned to the apartment, he found Willow on the balcony, watching the street traffic. "It was the police," he explained. "Trevor and Preston fled the country. Is that good or bad?" "It's good because it means they won't bother us anymore, at least for now." Willow nodded, relieved. "Ethan, can I ask you another question?" "As many as you want." "Are you doing this because you feel sorry for me?" The question caught him by surprise. Ethan sat down next to her on the balcony. "No, Willow, it's not pity. It's gratitude, and I think it's affection too." "Affection?" "Yes. You know when you like someone and you want that person to be well, to be happy?" Willow smiled shyly. "I feel that for you too." At that moment, Ethan understood that his life had changed forever. And for the first time in a long time, this change didn't scare him. It reassured him. A week later, Ethan completely transformed the living room. The coffee table became a small desk, with notebooks, colored pencils, erasers, and a children's primer scattered on it. "Ready for your first lesson?" he asked, sitting next to Willow. She held the pencil as if it were something magical and dangerous at the same time. "What if I can't do it?" "You will. But even if it takes time, it's okay. We'll go at your pace." Ethan opened the notebook to a blank page. "Let's start with your name. W-I-L-L-O-W. 6 letters." He wrote each letter slowly, explaining the hand movement. Willow watched intently, as if memorizing every stroke. "Now you try." Her first attempt came out shaky, disproportionate. Willow frowned, frustrated. "It looks awful." "It's perfect for a first try. Shall we try again?" After half an hour, Willow managed to write "Willow" legibly. When she finished, she looked at the paper with a mixture of disbelief and pride. "I wrote my name," she whispered. "You did. And you know what that means?" "What?" "That you exist on paper. That your story can be told by yourself." In the following days, the lessons became sacred rituals. Every morning, after breakfast, Ethan and Willow would sit at the table. She learned a new letter. He discovered a new facet of the girl. "Why does the letter B make a B sound?" Willow asked on the third day. "Good question. I'll look it up and tell you tomorrow." Ethan discovered that teaching forced him to rediscover things he had forgotten. Why did letters have those shapes? How did writing originate? Willow asked questions he had never considered. On the 5th day, she managed to write Ethan by herself. "Now you also exist on paper," she said, smiling. "Yeah, now we both exist." Willow began taking her notebooks everywhere. She wrote single words while watching TV, practiced letters while eating. It was as if she was recovering years lost in weeks. "Ethan," she said one afternoon, after writing home in her notebook. "Before, I didn't have a home. Now I have a home and I know how to write home. It's like the world became more real." The observation deeply moved him. "What do you mean, more real?" "Before, things only existed in my head. Now I can put them on paper. I can save the words." At the end of the 2nd week, Willow tried to write a complete sentence. It took her almost an hour, stopping several times to ask how to spell each word. When she finished, she showed the paper to Ethan. "I have a family." His eyes filled with tears. "Willow, this is it true?" She interrupted, insecure. "Are we really a family?" Ethan hugged her. "We are, yes. The best family I've ever had. Can I write one more thing?" "Of course." Willow picked up another paper and carefully wrote, "Ethan is my dad." This time, both of them cried. That night, while Willow slept, Ethan called the adoption lawyer. "Ms. Reed, Ethan Cole. I want to accelerate Willow's adoption process, do whatever is necessary." "Mr. Cole, these processes take time. I don't care about time or money. I want her to be officially my daughter as soon as possible." The next day, Willow woke up earlier than usual. Ethan found her in the living room writing in her notebook. "What are you doing up so early?" "I wanted to write something before class." She showed him the paper. In still childish but increasingly firm handwriting, she had written, "I exist." Ethan sat down next to her, moved. "You always existed, Willow, since the day you were born. But now I know I exist, and I know how to write that I exist." Ethan understood he was witnessing something much bigger than literacy. It was the birth of a person who finally recognized herself as part of the world. "Ready to learn new words today?" "Always," she replied, smiling. "I want to learn all the words there are." Ethan laughed. "Then we'll need a lot of time together." "We have a lot of time," Willow said with the simple wisdom of a child who had finally found her place in the world. And the lessons began again, word by word, building not just an education but an entire new life. The headline in the financial newspaper was small, but enough to ruin Ethan's breakfast. "Promising startup under investigation for financial fraud." Willow, who was practicing writing the alphabet in her notebook, noticed his change in mood. "Did something bad happen?" Ethan quickly folded the newspaper. "Nothing much, just some work problems." But the situation was more serious than he had admitted. During the morning, 3 important clients canceled contracts. In the afternoon, 2 investors requested emergency meetings. At night, his assistant called in a panic. "Ethan, the press is saying you knew about the fraud from the beginning, that you were complicit with the Evans brothers." "Brenda, you know that's a lie." "I know, but the newspapers don't, and neither do the clients." Ethan hung up the phone and found Willow on the sofa, pretending to watch cartoons but clearly worried. "Dad," she said, testing the word for the first time, "can I help you with anything?" Dad hit him in the chest, but it also reminded him of his priorities. "You don't need to worry about anything. I'm the one who takes care of you, remember? But you look sad." Ethan sat next to her. "Sometimes adults go through difficult times, but I'll fix everything." The following week, the situation worsened. An investigative report insinuated that Ethan had used privileged information for his own benefit. 3 employees resigned. The company's revenue plummeted 60%. "Ethan," Willow said during their writing lesson, "why don't you tell the truth about those bad men?" "It's complicated, Willow. People don't always believe the truth when it's hard to understand. But I believe you. I know. And that's what matters." That night, Ethan received a call from David. "Man, things are bad. The Evans brothers are apparently spreading distorted information from the Paraguayan press. They say you were the real mastermind of the operation. How can they do that if they fled the country? Lawyers, prosecutors, press relations. They're playing dirty to clear their names at your expense." Ethan spent the night in the office trying to reorganize the company's finances. When he got home in the morning, he found Willow awake, writing in her notebook. "Why aren't you sleeping?" "I wrote a letter," she said, showing him the paper. Ethan read aloud. "To the newspapers. Ethan Cole is a good person. He saved me. He didn't do anything wrong. The bad men who ran away did wrong. Please believe him. Signed, Willow." Ethan felt a tightening in his chest. "Willow, this is... Can I send it to the newspapers? Can you teach me how to make a real letter?" "My daughter, it's much more complicated than that. But it's the truth," she insisted. "And you taught me that the truth always finds a way to appear." Ethan looked at the girl who had saved his company and now wanted to save his reputation. A child who barely knew how to write, but understood better than any adult the difference between right and wrong. "You know what? You're right. We're going to write this letter together." "Really?" "Really. But first you're going to teach me something." "What?" "How you always manage to believe the right people and distrust the wrong ones." Willow thought for a moment. "It's easy. The right people look you in the eye when they talk. The wrong people look somewhere else." Ethan smiled. A street kid had just given him the most valuable lesson about character he had ever received. "Then let's write our letter. And let's tell the complete truth. All the true words there are? All the true words there are." As they began to write together, Ethan realized that no matter what happened to his company, he had already gained what truly mattered. A daughter who taught him to be a better person every day. The letter Ethan and Willow wrote together never reached the newspapers. The next day, an unexpected event completely changed the course of the situation. David called early in the morning, euphoric. "Ethan, turn on the news channel now." On the screen, a middle-aged woman was being interviewed on a morning show. The caption read, "Former Zenith Corp employee breaks silence after 3 years. My name is Brenda Davies. I worked as an accountant at Zenith Corp until 2021. I couldn't stay silent anymore seeing an innocent person being persecuted by the press." Willow sat next to Ethan, watching intently. "Is it about you?" she asked. "I think so," Brenda continued. "Ethan Cole has nothing to do with the fraud. Trevor and Preston Evans pulled the same scam at Zenith Corp. They threatened my family so I wouldn't speak. Today, they are trying to repeat the lie." The presenter leaned forward. "Do you have proof of this?" "I have recordings, emails, documents I kept for 3 years. Trevor Evans called me yesterday, offering money so I wouldn't give this interview." Ethan felt his legs tremble. "Dad, is this good?" Willow asked, taking his hand. "It's very good, daughter, very good." During the interview, Brenda presented documents that proved the brothers' pattern of behavior. Phone recordings, emails with instructions to falsify reports, even conversations about implementing the Chicago plan in other companies. Ethan's phone wouldn't stop ringing. Journalists wanting interviews, clients apologizing, investors reversing cancellations. "Why did she decide to speak now?" Willow asked. I don't know. We'll find out. In the afternoon, Brenda called Ethan directly. Mr. Cole, Brenda Davies. Can we talk in person? They met at a nearby cafe. Brenda was a simple woman, with the tired look of someone who had carried a heavy burden for a long time. Why did you decide to speak? Ethan asked. Because of the girl. What do you mean? I saw the report about her kidnapping. I saw how you defended her, how you took risks to protect her. I realized that you are exactly the opposite of those two monsters. Brenda told her story. The Evans brothers had blackmailed several people at Zenith Corp. When the company collapsed, they threatened their families to ensure silence. They said if I spoke, my daughter would suffer an accident. I was scared for 3 years. And now I saw a man protecting a child who wasn't even his daughter. It reminded me of what really matters in life. Ethan felt a deep emotion. Brenda, how can I thank you? Don't thank me. Thank Willow. If it weren't for her, I never would have had the courage. When Ethan got home, Willow was practicing writing at the living room table. She had written the same sentence several times. Good people help each other. Where did you learn that? He asked, sitting next to her. I didn't learn it. I thought it myself. You helped me? I helped you. Now that lady helped you. That's how it works. Ethan hugged her. Willow, do you know that you changed not only my life, but the lives of other people too? How so? If you hadn't warned me about Trevor and Preston that night, Brenda never would have seen the news about you, and if she hadn't seen it, she never would have had the courage to tell the truth. Willow thought for a moment. So one good thing leads to another good thing? Exactly. Like dominoes, but backwards? Ethan laughed. Perfect. Positive dominoes. That night, while Willow slept, Ethan received a message from David. Trevor and Preston were arrested in Paraguay. Extradition request approved. They return to the U.S. next week. Ethan looked at the room where Willow slept peacefully. In a few days, the girl who had saved his life would see the villains pay for their crimes. But the most important thing had already happened. They had found in each other not just protection, but a true family. And no scam in the world could destroy that. 3 weeks after the adoption, Ethan parked in front of Rosewood Prep, a private school known for accepting children with diverse educational backgrounds. Willow was in the passenger seat, wearing her new uniform, but visibly trembling. What if they don't like me? She asked for the 5th time. They'll love you. But if they don't, that's their problem, not yours. What if I don't know the answers to the questions? Then you learn. That's what school is for. Ethan took her hand. Willow, remember what we talked about? You don't need to prove anything to anyone. You just need to be yourself. The principal, Ms. Eleanor Vance, greeted them with a warm smile. She was an older woman with gray hair and kind eyes, who immediately addressed Willow. So you're Willow? I've heard a lot about you. You have? Willow hid behind Ethan. Your dad told me you're very smart and brave, and that you learn things very quickly. It's true, Willow whispered. How about we meet your class? The 2nd grade classroom had 15 children. When Willow entered, everyone stopped to look. Ethan felt his stomach tighten, but Willow took a deep breath and said, Hi, my name is Willow. I'm learning to read and write. A girl with curly hair raised her hand. I'm learning too, it's hard. It really is hard, Willow agreed, relaxing a bit. The teacher, Ms. Olivia Chen, had 20 years of experience with children in special situations. Willow, how about you sit next to Chloe? You can help each other with activities. During the first week, Ethan anxiously waited for Willow to get out of school. Every day he asked how it had been, and every day she replied, Hard, but good. What's hard? The other kids know a lot more than me. They read whole books, I'm still learning big words. And what's good? Ms. Chen said I have a hunger to learn, and Chloe taught me how to play hopscotch. In the 2nd week, Willow came home excited. Dad, I wrote a whole essay. About what? About family. Want me to read it to you? Ethan sat next to her on the sofa. Willow read slowly, pronouncing each word carefully. My family is small, but it is the best. My dad taught me to write. Before I didn't have a family, now I do. A family doesn't need to be big, it needs to have love. My family has a lot of love. Ethan swallowed the lump in his throat. It's perfect, daughter. Ms. Chen said I can read it in front of the class tomorrow. You want to read in front of the class? I do. I want everyone to know that I have a family. In the third week, Ethan was called to a meeting with the principal. Mr. Cole, I need to talk about Willow. Ethan felt his heart race. Did she do something? On the contrary, she's extraordinary. In 3 weeks, she's progressed more than many children in 3 months. Really? And it's not just the learning. She has an incredible ability to help other children. Yesterday, she comforted a boy who was crying because he couldn't read a word. She sat next to him and said, "Don't be sad. I couldn't read either. Now I can. You'll learn too." Ethan smiled, proud. She's always been like that. Even when she had nothing, she thought about helping others. Mr. Cole, may I ask a personal question? Of course. How did you manage to make her trust herself so much? Ethan thought for a moment. I think she taught me to trust. In life, in people, in the future. Willow didn't just learn to read and write with me. She taught me to truly live. When Ethan got home, he found Willow doing homework at the living room table. She was focused, her tongue sticking out, carefully writing. What homework is that? Math. Word problems. Is it hard? A little bit, but I don't give up anymore. Ethan sat next to her. What do you mean you don't give up anymore? Before, when things got hard, I ran away. Now I know that if I try hard enough, I always succeed. Who taught you that? Willow looked at him with that smile that melted his heart. You, Dad. You taught me that I'm capable of anything. At that moment, Ethan understood that the circle had closed. The girl he had saved now saved him every day, simply by being who she was. Brave, determined, and full of love. And school was just the beginning of a journey they would take together, word by word, achievement by achievement. The family court was silent when Ethan and Willow entered the courtroom. Ms. Evelyn Reed, the lawyer, was waiting for them with a folder full of documents. Nervous? She asked Ethan. A little. What if the judge doesn't approve? With all the material we prepared, it would be impossible. But remember, the most important thing is what Willow will say. Willow was sitting between Ethan and Ms. Reed, swinging her legs on the tall chair. She was wearing a blue dress Ethan had bought especially for the occasion. Dad, what am I going to say again? The truth. That's all. Judge Robert Sterling entered, a man in his 50s with a serious expression but kind eyes. Everyone stood up. You may be seated. Today we will decide on the adoption petition of minor Willow Santos by Ethan Cole. Ethan felt his heart race. The judge flipped through the documents for a few minutes. I see here reports from the school, the psychologist, the social worker, all extremely positive. He looked at Willow. But I want to hear from you, Willow. Can you tell me how you met Ethan? Willow straightened in her chair. He was being tricked by bad men. I warned him. And then? He took me to a hotel so I wouldn't sleep in the rain. Nobody had ever done that. How do you feel living with Ethan? Safe, she replied without hesitation. And happy. He taught me to read and write. Now I know I exist. The judge raised his eyebrows. What do you mean you know you exist? Before, I couldn't write my name. People walked past me as if I were invisible. Now I can write, I can read, I have school, I have a family. I truly exist. Judge Sterling smiled for the first time in the hearing. And what does Ethan mean to you? He's my dad, Willow replied with absolute conviction. Not the dad who made me born, but the dad who made me live. Ethan felt his eyes well up. The judge addressed him. Ethan, why do you want to adopt Willow? Because she saved me, Your Honor. Not just from the scammers, but from an empty life. She taught me that success isn't having money, it's having someone to love and protect. And do you feel prepared to be a father? I don't know if anyone ever feels completely prepared, but I know I can't imagine my life without her. The judge spoke to Willow again. Willow, do you understand what adoption means? It means he'll be my dad forever, even on paper, and that no one can take me away from him. That's right. And is that what you want? It's all I've ever wanted. Judge Sterling made some notes and consulted the documents once more. Analyzing the case, I see an exceptional situation. A minor, in a vulnerable situation, was taken in by a responsible adult. The reports show perfect adaptation, accelerated educational development, solid emotional bonds. Ethan held Willow's hand. Furthermore, the judge continued, It is evident that the bond between you transcends legal issues. You are already a de facto family. Your Honor, Willow interrupted shyly. Can I say something? Of course, dear. I never had a real dad. Ethan teaches me things every day, not just to read and write, but to be a good person. He makes me feel like I'm worth something. The silence in the room was moving. Willow, the judge said softly, you are worth a lot, and it's beautiful to see how you two found each other. Judge Sterling stood up. In view of the foregoing, I grant the adoption petition. Willow Santos shall now be known as Willow Santos Cole, the legitimate daughter of Ethan Cole, with all rights and duties arising from the parentage. Willow jumped from the chair and hugged Ethan. Dad, now it's official. Ethan lifted her into his arms, openly crying. Now it's official, my daughter. Ms. Reed approached with the final documents. Congratulations to both of you. It was the most beautiful adoption hearing I've ever witnessed. When they left the courthouse, Willow firmly held her new birth certificate, which listed Willow Santos Cole and Ethan Cole in the father field. Dad, can I show this at school tomorrow? You can show it to the whole world. And now, what do we do? Ethan looked at his daughter, his official daughter, and smiled. Now we live happily ever after. Like in the stories you're learning to read. This is the best story of all, Willow said, hugging the document to her chest. And it truly was. 6 months after the adoption, Ethan received a call that took him back to the past. Ethan, District Attorney Mark Riley. The Evans brothers are going to trial next week. We need your testimony. Ethan looked at Willow, who was doing homework at the living room table. She was already reading small books by herself and writing essays that impressed her teacher. Will it be necessary for Willow to testify as well? It would be important, but I understand if you prefer not to expose her. Ethan covered the phone and addressed his daughter. Willow, remember the men who tried to trick me? She looked up from her notebook. Trevor and Preston? The ones who took me to that place? That's right. They're going to be judged. The prosecutor wants us to tell what happened. Willow thought for a moment. Will they go to jail? If the judge decides they did something wrong, yes. They did something wrong. Lying is wrong. Stealing is wrong. Scaring a child is very wrong. So you want to help tell the truth? I do, so they don't do that to other people. On the day of the trial, the courthouse was packed. Journalists, curious onlookers, and some victims of the Evans brothers' previous scams filled the galleries. Trevor and Preston entered in handcuffs, wearing wrinkled suits. When they saw Ethan, they tried to appear indifferent, but Willow noticed their discomfort. Dad, they're scared, she whispered. How do you know? They're looking at the floor. People who lie can't look you in the eye. Ethan smiled. His daughter continued to surprise him with her wisdom. The district attorney called Ethan as the first witness. He recounted the entire story. The brothers' approach, the fraudulent contract, the discoveries about Zenith Corp. And how did you learn about the fraud? The DA asked. A child warned me. Willow Santos Cole, my adopted daughter. A child? How did she know? She overheard a conversation between the defendants by chance. They were bragging about the scam they planned to pull off. The defense tried to object. Your Honor, the testimony of a street child cannot be considered reliable. The judge interrupted him. Counselor, the minor is no longer in a street situation, and her credibility will be assessed when she testifies. When Willow was called, Ethan accompanied her to the witness stand. She was nervous, but determined. Willow, the DA, said gently, can you tell us what you heard that night at the restaurant? Willow took a deep breath and spoke clearly. They were talking about tricking Ethan. They said he was a sucker, and that they were going to make him sign a bad paper. Then, they were going to run away and leave him with the problems. Are you sure of what you heard? I am. I even drew it on paper so I wouldn't forget. And then what happened? They sent a fake lady to pick me up at the hotel. They took me to a locked place. They said Ethan didn't like me anymore. Did you believe it? No, because Ethan looks me in the eye when he talks. People who tell the truth look you in the eye. The defense lawyer stood up. Objection, the minor is speculating. She is reporting her perception, the judge replied. Proceed, Willow. They locked me up because they knew I had told the truth. Bad people don't like the truth. Trevor whispered something to his lawyer, clearly bothered. The DA continued. Willow, are you afraid of the defendants? I'm not anymore. Now I have a family, I have a home, I can read and write. They can't scare me anymore. Why? Because now I know who I am, and I know there are people who protect me. When the defense tried to cross-examine her, Willow remained calm and coherent. She answered all questions with simplicity and honesty. "Willow," the lawyer asked, "don't you think you might be confusing things?" It was a very complicated situation for a child. "I wasn't confused," she answered firmly. "I was scared, but I heard it right, and I drew everything so I wouldn't forget." At the end of the testimony, the judge asked an unexpected question. "Willow, what do you hope happens to the defendants?" Willow looked at Trevor and Preston, then at Ethan, and finally at the judge. "I hope they learn that hurting people is wrong, and that they don't do that to anyone else." The courtroom fell silent. Even the defense lawyers seemed moved. After hearing all the witnesses and analyzing the evidence, the judge delivered the sentence. Trevor and Preston were sentenced to 8 years in prison for aggravated fraud, conspiracy, and kidnapping. Outside the courthouse, Willow asked, "Dad, will they learn to be better people in jail?" "I hope so, daughter. I hope so." "And now it's all over?" Ethan picked her up. "Now everything has just begun. Our new life, our family, your bright future." Willow smiled and hugged her dad. "I like it when stories end with justice," she said. "Me too, my daughter. Me too." A year after the trial, Ethan found Willow on the balcony, writing in a new notebook. She was now in 4th grade and reading books that many adults considered difficult. "What are you writing?" he asked, sitting next to her. "A project for school." The teacher asked each student to create something that could help other people. "And what's your idea?" Willow showed him the notebook. In neat handwriting, she had written, "Project Bright, teaching homeless children to read and write." Ethan felt his heart race. "Tell me about this project." "I want to teach other kids like I used to be, kids who live on the streets and have never been to school." Willow flipped through the pages showing drawings and notes. "They can learn to read and write on weekends, in safe places." "And why do you want to do this?" "Because I know what it's like not to exist. If they learn to write their own name, they'll know they exist too." Ethan was moved by his daughter's maturity. "That's an incredible idea, Willow. But it's a very big project. You'll need help." "I know. That's why I wrote here at the bottom. Need an adult partner who understands business and money." Ethan laughed. "And do you have someone in mind?" "I do," she replied, smiling. "My dad." In the following weeks, Ethan and Willow worked together developing the project. She drew, wrote ideas, created teaching methods based on her own experience. He handled the legal, financial, and logistical aspects. "Dad, can I ask a question?" "Always." "Is your company doing well now?" Ethan smiled. Horizon Tech had fully recovered after the trial. New clients, legitimate international contracts, a renewed team. "It's doing very well." "Why?" "Because I thought you could use the company's money to help the kids." "Willow, are you suggesting I invest in your nonprofit?" "That's right. It would be an investment with guaranteed returns." "What kind of returns?" "Kids who can read become better adults make a better world. A better world is good for everyone, even for business people." Ethan hugged her, impressed by her reasoning. "You're right. Let's do this together." 2 months later, they inaugurated the first Project Bright Center in a municipal school that opened on Saturdays. Willow, now 10 years old, was the youngest assistant teacher American education had ever seen. On the first day, 5 children appeared. Ethan watched from afar as Willow introduced herself. "Hi everyone, my name is Willow. I also used to live on the street. I also couldn't read or write. Now I can. And you will learn too." A boy about 8 years old raised his hand. "How did you get off the street?" "I met a good person who helped me. But before that I helped myself first." "How?" "I spoke the truth when no one wanted to listen. I protected someone who needed protection, and I accepted help when it appeared." Willow picked up a piece of chalk and wrote on the board, "You exist. This is the first sentence we will learn to read and write. Because it is the most important of all." Ethan had to leave the room. He was crying with pride. At the end of the first month, Project Bright was serving 15 children. Willow had created her own literacy method, based on words that had meaning in the lives of street children. Home, family, food, safety, friend, dad, she said one night, as they prepared materials for the next class. I think I've found my calling. What is it? I want to be a teacher for kids no one wants to teach. Why? Because I know that inside every lost child there's an amazing person waiting to come out. They just need someone to believe in them. Ethan looked at his daughter, who was organizing notebooks and pencils with the same care a mother arranges a baby's room. Willow, do you know how proud I am of you? I do. And do you know that everything I do is because you taught me I was capable? How did I teach you that? You believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. You saw a daughter where everyone else just saw a street kid. That night, Ethan wrote in his diary, 2 years ago I thought I was saving a child. Today I understand that she saved me first. And now she is saving other children. Love doesn't divide, it multiplies. Education is not charity, it's revolution. And Willow is proof that one person can change the world, one word at a time. The following month, 3 journalists requested interviews about Project Bright. Willow accepted all of them, but made one demand. I'll only talk if you promise to tell the complete truth, that street children are smart, brave, and deserve opportunities. And so she became the youngest and most effective spokesperson for inclusive education in the country. Her story was just beginning. 3 years later, Ethan was in the audience at the Grand Metropolitan Theater, watching Willow receive the National Award for Inclusive Education. At 13, she had become the youngest person to receive the honor. Project Bright now operated in 12 American cities, had taught more than 500 children to read, and Willow was invited to speak at educational conferences. And now, said the presenter, Willow Santos Cole will speak about the transformative power of education. Willow walked onto the stage with the same determination she had when she was a street kid warning about scammers. But now she wore a navy blue blazer and carried in her voice the authority of someone who had experienced firsthand everything she spoke about. Good evening, she began, looking at the packed audience. 4 years ago, I couldn't write my own name. Today I am here because someone believed that a street child could have something important to say. Ethan felt his eyes well up. Education is not just about teaching letters and numbers. It's about teaching that every person has value, has a voice, has a future. When a child learns to write, I exist, they are not just forming words. They are claiming their place in the world. The audience listened in absolute silence. Many people ask why I dedicate my life to teaching homeless children. The answer is simple: because they taught me first. They taught me that courage is not the absence of fear. It is doing the right thing even when you are scared. Willow paused, looking for Ethan in the audience. My dad taught me to read and write. But before that, he taught me something more important. That every person deserves a second chance. That the past does not define the future. That a family is built with love, not with blood. Tears streamed down Ethan's face. Today, Project Bright serves children across the U.S. But our dream is bigger. We want no child in the world to have to choose between having food and having an education, between having a home and having a school, between surviving and living. Willow showed a photo on the big screen. 50 children smiling, holding literacy certificates. Each of these children was invisible to society. Today they are writing their own stories. Some want to be doctors, others teachers, others entrepreneurs. All of them know they are capable of anything. The audience began to applaud, but Willow raised her hand. I want to end with a request. Look around. See the children who go unnoticed on the street, at school, in families. Sometimes, all a child needs is an adult who believes in them. Sometimes, that child can save your life too, because that's what happened to me. I saved my dad from bad people, but he saved me from a life without hope. And together we are saving other children. Love is like that. The more you give, the more you have. Willow paused one last time. Thank you for this award. But the real award is seeing a child write their name for the first time and discover that they always existed. They just needed someone to see them. The ovation was thunderous. Ethan stood up, openly crying, applauding his daughter who had become a force of transformation in the world. After the ceremony, father and daughter walked along Santa Monica Beach. Willow held the trophy, but seemed more interested in the stars. Dad, do you regret anything? About what? Bringing me home that night. Ethan stopped walking. Willow, bringing you home was the best decision of my life. You taught me what truly matters. It's not what we achieve, it's who we love and who we help along the way. And do you know what I learned? Tell me that everyone has two stories, the one they are born with and the one they choose to write. I was born an orphan, from the streets, without an education, but I chose to write a story of family, of learning, of helping other people. Ethan hugged her. And what story do you want to write from now on? I want to be the best daughter in the world, and I want no child in the US to have to live on the street. Those are big goals. The best goals are always big, Willow smiled. You taught me that too. They continued walking along the sand, father and daughter, united by a story that began with an unexpected warning and transformed into the most beautiful journey of love and transformation. Willow looked at the ocean and whispered, "Thank you for teaching me that I always existed. Now I'm going to teach that to the whole world." Ethan smiled, knowing she would keep that promise. Because Willow Santos Cole had the rarest power that exists, the ability to transform pain into hope, abandonment into love, and a single life into inspiration for thousands. And this was just the beginning of the story she chose to write.